Hi everyone, here we are today with 5-1 Work Together. We're talking about check endorsements and writing checks and recording those checks on check stubs. So in the first step for 5-1 Work Together, your endorsement step, it says for each of these situations, prepare the appropriate endorsement. Enter student signature in cells where you would enter the endorser's signature. So please remember that anytime you're signing anything for these assignments, you need to make sure that you enter the word student signature anywhere that you would typically enter your name as a signature. So the first thing that they're asking us to do is to write a blank endorsement. And again, a blank endorsement is when you sign just a name and that's it. It doesn't mean you leave it blank. You actually do sign something, but it's just specifically a name. So all I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to go here and I'm just going to type student's signature. And that's it. That will have completed this one. Again, we typically just sign our name, but due to this computer program, we actually are going to include student signature anytime that we would sign our name. So we're going to go down to the next one, and the next one is asking us to do a special endorsement. And a special endorsement is when you are transferring a check over from one person to another, which is you're completely able to do so. You just have to fill some things out on the back for your endorsements. So it says that we want to transfer the check over to Clara Kwan. So what we're going to type in the first line is we're going to say pay to the order of, then we're going to the second line and type who we're turning it over to. And then lastly, we'll just go and sign it. Again, adding in student signature. And then the last one is a restrictive endorsement. Again, a restrictive endorsement is so that when you take that check to the bank, the only thing that can happen with it is you are restricting it to just simply be deposited in the account that you've specified. And here they want us to do it for Grantsburg Accounting. So we're going to say for deposit only to, and on the second line, the account of, and we're going to say to Grantsburg Accounting. And then we're going to sign it. And that is that. So we have our three types of endorsements. We have our blank endorsement, again, simply a signature, special endorsement where we're turning it over to somebody else, and restrictive endorsement where we are restricting what can be done with that check. Okay, go ahead and go to your next step. And on this next step, we're actually going to be writing out a check. And we have some directions at the top. It says record the balance brought forward on check stub number 151. Now we know we're working with 151. Here it tells us. We also see on our check number 151 the number in two different spaces. It says to record, on the check stub to record the deposit of $2,145.88. So we're going to go ahead and go down to the balance brought forward. We're going to type in 2145.88. Next, it says to record a deposit of $316 made on June 30th of the current year on check stub number 151. So we have a deposit made on June 30th for $316. So we're going to go put in the date, so 6/30, and the deposit was $316. Now we're going to do a quick subtotal, really, before we write our check. However, we have a balance brought forward. We have a deposit. This balance is the balance we have in our account. We also have a deposit that we're making, so we're going to add these two together because we made a deposit that adds to what we have in our account. So our new subtotal is going to be 2461.88. Okay, next part. It says now we're going to go ahead and prepare check number 151 to A1 Computers for repairs for 148. Use June 30th as the date. Enter student signature in the cell where you would sign the check. So we're preparing this check. We're going to do it on June 30th. So June, JUN period 30. We're going to write the check to A1 Computers. We're going to write the check out for $148. And down here we're going to write exactly the dollar amount. So we're going to say 148 and no over 100. Now, typically if you were writing this check out, you'd actually do a couple of other things. You would draw a line after the check. If you had, say, written this check for 148.25, you would put 25 over 100. If it was 148.50, you'd put 50 over 100. That's where you're putting whatever cents is involved in the amount. Now, if you're writing the check out, you could just as easily put 0 over 100, and that's totally acceptable. This program, however, wants you always to say no over 100. So please do that for your assignments. Okay, we wrote this check and they told us what we wrote it for is right up here. They said for repairs, so we're going to go ahead and fill in repairs. Again, a memo is not always necessary for you to fill in on a check. However, on these assignments, they will expect you to fill that in. And then we're going to go ahead and sign it. All right, and then the last thing we're going to do, because this is a perforated edge right here, we would tear off this check, hand it off to A1 Computers, but we still need to have a record. And our record is this check stub right here. That's the record we're keeping for ourselves. So we need to make note of information on here so we have that record as well. So this check was written for $148. It was written on June 30th. We wrote it to A1 Computers, and it was for repairs. Now we just have to do some balances. Well, I don't have anything else to put in for my other. I don't have any service charges or miscellaneous expenses or things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my subtotal down. And then I'm going to go ahead and write in the amount for this check. This check was written for $148. Now I'm going to actually take my subtotal and I'm going to subtract this because again, the moment A1 Computers cashes this check, it's going to deduct from my subtotal. It's going to deduct from the amount I have in my account. So I'm going to deduct that. So my new total is $2313.88. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and go to the next step. Okay, and here we're writing a check as well. The first thing they tell us is to record the balance brought forward on a check stub number 152 of 2313.88, the balance we were just working with. So 2313.88. It says to prepare check number 152 to Southwest Supply for supplies, $62. Use June 30th as the date, enter student signature, and cell where you would sign the check. So June 30th, we're going to write this out. Oops, sorry. Southwest Supply. The amount is for $62. And we're going to do 62 and no over 100. And again, we said it was for supplies. And we're going to go ahead and do a student signature. Okay, then let's go ahead and go back and fill in our check stub. We don't have any deposits to record, any service charges, anything like that. So this will be a pretty seamless process filling out this check stub. We don't have anything else to really add in or deduct except for the amount for this check. So the amount of this check was $62. We wrote it on June 30th. Oops, sorry about that. June 30th. We wrote it to Southwest Supply. We wrote it for supplies. All right, we don't have any amount to deposit. They didn't tell us to fill anything in. So we're just going to leave that blank. So 2313.88. We don't have any others to add in as well. So again, 2313.88. The amount this check was $62. So what we're going to do here again is we're going to deduct that amount because again, once it's taken out, it is taking away from our money, from the money that we have. So the total, grand total here, 2251.88. And that's it. Please go ahead and grade your problem.